This is Siskiyou 101. My name is Ian Clement, and this is looking at the supports and actually generating point data files for use with robots. So basically we have various points. I've got some control points here. I've got various hanger points here. I've got some user-defined points here. I'm just going to use these as the examples. Any points we can do on there. So stage one or step one, select the points you want to generate the data for. So I'm just going to say I just need them in this area for now. I have the ability of appending points to existing files, creating files from scratch. So I don't need to do the whole floor in one go if I don't need to. I can always just do sections and keep appending or create additional files. So with all these selected here from the Siskiyou ribbon, if you go over to Point Manager, you'll be prompted. Siskiyou wants the opportunity, or is giving you the opportunity to readjust the connections of the hanger rods, make sure they're all connected to the structure, and updating the bottom of the hanger. Now we looked at both these functions in an earlier video there. I would suggest you choose no off here. You can manually adjust a rod, for example. Maybe I've stretched or increased or decreased the length of a rod. Not necessarily because there's structure in the way, but because I know it needs to be a little bit longer or shorter. Now, if I say yes on here, Siskiyou goes back through and puts the rods back the way it thinks they should be. So generally, I would recommend you set these rods up and make sure these are all correct before you get to this point. And so you can just say no and don't have Siskiyou itself going back through potentially readjusting rods back the way they would have been. So I'm going to say no to this, and you get this dialog popping up here. Let me just stretch that out a little way. So first thing I want to do here is select points. So in my window I drug round, it's found all of these points. Don't really need to worry too much about the data. There's some of my hangers. And you can see there you've got the names coming off on the end, the type of hanger we've actually got. These were the points I've numbered or renumbered. These are ones I didn't renumber, so it's basically just pulled out the mark number in these cases. Some more I've numbered. There's my control points, and there's my grills. The ones I've actually manually placed these additional points inside. You'll notice if the point name is the same, Siskiyou, because you can't have duplicate point names in the file, automatically adds a #1, #2, #3, etc. all the way through. It's done that for the hangers, and it's done that for the grills in my case, because all my grills are SD1s coming off that. You have got the ability from here to actually export this data to Excel. That potentially allows you to go back in and maybe do some more numbering. Maybe you don't like the way it's been renumbered, you want to modify something. You do have the opportunity here of actually sending it out to Excel and then re-importing it. That will update the model and the point information. In my case, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to generate the points as is. I'm happy with what I've actually got here. So if I go to File, I've got New File. Now I can open an existing file, like I was saying earlier, and actually add points to an existing file. I just want to create a new file, and I'm going to call this Test. Now you've got three file formats: TFL, MEP, or TXT. So based on the type of robot you're using, you've got three choices of file formats. I'm going to leave this as TFL. The process is identical, no matter which format you choose. It's obviously just a case of what robots can read what files. So in my case, I'm going to leave it as TFL and hit the save. So I can see at the top here, it has actually created that file name. This is the content, so there's nothing in the file at this point. Now you've got two methods of getting the point data from here into here. Method one is highlight the range, and from here you have this save points to file. You'll generally find it's much easier, rather than having to manually select which points you want, if you make sure this bottom box is checked. It's just a little toggle switch, so it's turned off there, turn it back on. So that basically says get the point data out of everything at the top. I don't have to select things. I can just do save points to file. It works its way through all of these components and generates the point data down the bottom here now. So in this case, this is actually the TFL file, and it tells me I've got 25 points. This is the information that's gone out there. So on the robot, it's going to basically break it out by the system. In this case, obviously the point name, what is actually going at that location. So in this case, they're all half-inch Cooper B-line Clavishangers, I think, if we drag that out. Yep, show me the Clavishangers name off there. So this is essentially the information that's exported out to the robot coming off there. So that's all I need to do for this. So I can close out of there, and that's my point file. That's the only file you actually need to run the robot, but obviously it's very useful for them to have a background on there as well, so they know, when they're shooting point H1, visually where it is, why they're doing it, etc. So typically from here, you would also generate a DWG. You obviously want the same area you're in. You may want to turn off some of the graphics that you don't want. Again, just use visibility graphics, and maybe get rid of furniture, sight, things that you just are irrelevant to what you've actually going on there. Once you've got this format the way you want it to be, file, and then you've got the export and CAD formats. And typically you use a DWG. Obviously you've got, based on your robot, you do have choices. Typically a DWG. And then so you can work your way through on here. And I would generally give it the same name. So I call my point file test. So I'm going to call my DWG test. And in my case, just shove that back on the desktop. So I've got the same thing. A test file and a test DWG. The OK on there. So these are basically the two files on the robot, or certainly on the RTS Trimble robot. You'd be opening up the TFL file and then importing the DWG file to get the background coming off there. But that's the generation of points.